Welcome to my first video, Mom. Today I'm going to talk about 10 hatchbacks that we don't get in North America. So since I'm an up-and-coming YouTuber, I haven't gotten the chance to review any of these cars yet, or any cars for that matter. I mean, I would love to, but I don't have the access or the resources. So instead, I'm going to drop a link in the description to the most thorough review of each of these entries that I can find. These hot hatches are all brand new, and you can get them as a 2023 model in other markets like Europe, Asia, Middle East, etc. But why don't we get them, you may ask? Well, you can't buy them in the US because soccer moms are the only people who can buy cars in here, apparently. But no, seriously, they just don't sell. Or they just don't sell as well as they used to. The US car sales have been seeing a huge decline in compact car sales year after year over the last decade or so. I understand that people like us would love to buy a hot hatchback, but we're just not large enough of a segment for car companies to bring them in here. And it makes complete sense to just ditch the idea altogether. There's no conspiracy in this. It just doesn't make financial sense. Okay, hot hatchback number one, the BMW M135i xDrive. As you may know, this is not a full M car. It's not an M1, unfortunately, but it's hella cool. The engine is a 2-liter 4-cylinder that makes 306 horsepower and 331 pound-feet of torque, and it comes with an 8-speed SST, which stands for Steptronic Sport Transmission, as BMW likes to call it. It'll do 0 to 60 in 4.8 seconds, which isn't bad at all for a car that weighs 3,500 pounds. You want to buy it? Alright. It starts at around 41,000 pounds in the UK, which is about a little over $50,000. And at that price, it's kind of well equipped. It comes with a bunch of aero upgrades and the M Sport suspension, which lowers the car by like 1/3 of an inch. Okay, I guess. But it also adds stiffer springs in a damper setup. This car also adds the M Sport steering, which lowers the steering angle, and it creates a more linear feel to the way the car steers and handles. Look at it in the Sao Paulo yellow. Oh, it's so freaking cool. Why don't we get this thing? Number two, the Audi RS3 Sportback. We have a version of this car that we can buy, and by we, I mean like possibly you, or like your rich uncle, because I'm super broke. Anyway, there's a lot of similarities between the sedan and the hatchback version. I personally think the Sportback is way cooler and better looking. Plus, it's practical if that's what you're looking for. It doesn't matter because you can't get it. You can't. Well, this bad boy packs a 2.5-liter turbocharged 5-cylinder that pumps out 400 horsepower and 369 pound-feet of torque, which is quite a lot for such a small car. Yeah. Now, I've obviously never driven it, but all the reviews have collectively agreed that this car is an absolute banger and that it drives phenomenally. I mean, this thing has all-wheel drive that includes a torque vectoring rear diff with, get ready for this, a drift mode. Now, Audi's 0 to 6 numbers are 3.8 seconds, but Car and Driver tested it on their track and managed to get to 60 in 3.3 in a hatchback. To put that into perspective, the 2010 Lamborghini Gallardo LP560 Spider, whatever, it's a Lamborghini after all, does 0 to 60 in 3.4. And on top of that, look at it. The RS3 Sportback starts at around 94,000 euros, which translates to about $102,000. It's not cheap. I really want one though. I'll never have one, but unless you subscribe, maybe, but I don't know. Anyway, number three, Hyundai i30N. You've heard of the Veloster N, the Elantra N, the Sonata N, the Kona N, the Excel N. Okay, this last one is made up, but this guy is fast. And it's a hatchback, which if you haven't been paying attention, is what we're talking about here. Now, I know it's front-wheel drive, and in 15 years, it's going to become the new Ricer, but in the last decade or so, Hyundai has been jazzing up their lineup, and this car is pretty jazzed up. Now, it weighs just over 3,000 pounds, and the highest trim version, which is called the Performance Package, very cool name, by the way, is powered by a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder that makes 276 horsepower and 290 pound-feet of torque, which is okay, but there's more to this car. You can get it with an 8-speed dual-clutch automatic or a 6-speed manual, but there's still more. It has launch control in a Hyundai. A Hyundai has a launch control and rev matching and a rear stiffness bar to make the chassis more rigid, and it does 0 to 60 in 5.9 seconds. That's not bad. It's lucky. It's cute though. All right, next up, number 4, the Toyota GR Yaris. Of course, I'm going to talk about this car. You can't create a list for hot hatchbacks without mentioning the GR Yaris. But every other YouTuber has already reviewed it. I'm sure Jake Paul has a GR Yaris review on private somewhere. So instead, I'm just going to drop a link to Doug Demur's review in the description. Fair enough? All right. Number 5, the Cupra Leon. If you haven't heard of Cupra before, Cupra is the performance arm of the Spanish manufacturer Seat, which is also part of the Volkswagen group. Now, the Leon has many versions, but the one that stands out is the one that makes 310 plus horsepower, whatever that means. I mean, is it 311? Is it 704? What is it? Just say the actual number. I don't understand this. But you know what's weird? This car is powered by a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder that makes 310 horsepower, 310 plus horsepower, and it weighs 3,000 pounds, but it does 0 to 60 in the high 5 seconds. I mean, these numbers are pretty good, except for the 0 to 60, honestly. It kind of doesn't add up, right? Or is it just me? It only comes with a manual. I understand that makes it slower, but high fives, something's a bit off, honestly. But anyway, it's an attractive car. The interior is beautiful, and you can get it with these wheels. I mean, look at them. I personally think they're fire. Cupra also made a sick track version called the Leon Competition. The numbers also aren't amazing on this one, but look at it. Next up, number 6, the Volkswagen Polo GTI. Look, the Polo is basically a tiny Golf. I mean, it's 9 inches longer than a 2-door Mini Cooper, but this tiny package has a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder that pumps out 204 horsepower and 236 pound-feet of torque, sent to the front wheels, of course, by a DSG transmission. Now, it does 0 to 60 in 6.5 seconds, which is kind of impressive for a little car like this. And it looks like a Golf. Back in the day, the Polo used to look a little more distinctive than the Golf, but that doesn't seem to be the case with Volkswagen anymore. It's still a cool little car, but it starts at around $35,000 when converted to US dollars, which is quite much. Volkswagen has been kind of disappointing in this list, but I guess the RS3 makes up for it. Yeah, it definitely does. Okay? Yeah, it does. Number 7, the Subaru Impreza STI Sport. Now, you still can't get it anywhere, but Subaru just revealed this new Impreza STI Sport during the Tokyo Auto Salon car show earlier this year. Now, there's still not that much information about this car out there yet, but unfortunately, it's not looking good. It's not. See this? This is an STI Sport, which means it's not a full-blown STI, and that this is just a body kit. Subaru says that it's not a car that aims for acceleration. So they're basically saying that we made a car that looks fast, but definitely isn't. Now, CarScoop says that it will get the same hybrid powertrain as the Crosstrek, which combines a naturally aspirated 2-liter that makes a whopping 143 horsepower, but it's a hybrid, and the electric motor makes another 13 horsepower. Yep, that's it. That's the whole thing. Number 8, the Renault Megane RS Trophy R. Have you heard of this car? Have you? No, it's not a big deal. It's just the fastest front-wheel drive production car ever. Yeah, this is the fastest front-wheel drive to go around the Nürburgring. It did it in 7 minutes and 40 seconds and 1/10 of a second. Do you have any idea what that number means? It means that it's 2 seconds faster than the 997 GT3 RS and the Murcielago LP670 SV. It means it's 1/10 of a second slower than the SLS AMG, not the Black Series, of course. But this car is absolutely insane. Now, it's basically a race car, and Renault only built like 500 of those. It's super lightweight at just over 2,800 pounds, and it's powered by a 1.8-liter turbo 4-cylinder that makes 300 horsepower. Now, it comes with a dual-clutch automatic, but you know what's even more insane? The car that set the record was a 6-speed manual. How insane is that? The RS Trophy R came with a lot of racing-focused modifications. One of them is carbon fiber wheels, which were a $15,000 option. And this whole package costs about $90,000, including the carbon fiber wheels. And I gotta say, that's not too bad for a record-setting car, right? I'd buy it. I can't, but I would. Number 9 is pretty much the honorable mention of this list, and it's the Opel Astra, or as they like to call it in Britain, the Vauxhall Astra. I personally think that this car so far is the best looking one of all. I just love the retro inspired feel and the two-tone paint and just the simplicity of the design in general. I think the majority of all 3 of my viewers would disagree, but I love the way this car looks. Now, it's not really a hot hatchback. The highest trim, which is called the GSE, is a plug-in hybrid with about 220 horsepower, but it'll do 0 to 60 as soon as it can. Who cares? Why the rush anyway? But in my opinion, it's a very good looking car, and that makes up for it. They even made a pretty sick looking station wagon. Look at it. And that's why I thought it was worthy of this list. And finally, the holy grail of hot hatchbacks, the Mercedes-Benz A45 AMG. Well, there's a lot going on in this car. It just looks so rad, and it's so fast, it actually makes me a little sick. You know, like a little nausea in here. You know what's ridiculous about this car? It has the most powerful 4-cylinder engine ever built. Yeah, this car is no joke. So as I said, it's a 4-cylinder, 2-liter, that makes 420 horsepower and 370 pound-feet of torque. It gets it from 0 to 60 in 3.9 seconds. It's not as fast from 0 to 60 as the RS3, but this car is just as phenomenal. Of course, the A45 comes with all the bells and whistles and the performance upgrades, but my favorite feature by far is this steering wheel. It's just so cool. It's so cool. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, I would really appreciate it if you can hit the subscribe button, like, comment. Even if you want to call me out on a mistake I made, it's okay. I'm open to criticism. And I'll see you in the next one, I guess.